Where is Gregor Clegane's head? Probably not on his shoulders after Oberyn Martell killed him, or is it? What is going on with the zombie mountain? Let's take a look. Hi everyone, this is Robert. Welcome to Deep Geek. If you like theories, background, history and lore about A Song of Ice and Fire, The Lord of the Rings and The Witcher, this is the place for you. Welcome. The location of Gregor Clegane's head is one of the more obscure mysteries in A Song of Ice and Fire, but one of my favourites. We all know that the Mountain was killed in the trial by combat with Oberyn Martell. Not straight away, of course, he won that particular fight, but the Red Viper had laced his spear tip with poison, guaranteeing that his foe would suffer a slow but painful death. This was a personal matter for Oberyn. The Mountain had killed Elia Martell, Oberyn's sister, and her son Prince Aegon. Oberyn was in King's Landing for revenge, so regardless of the result of the trial by combat, Oberyn got his vengeance in. And the Mountain took a long time to die, at least a month in agony from what we can tell, at which point, before he himself died, Tywin Lannister seems to have promised that the Mountain's head would be sent to Dorne as a dark sort of peace offering. Here is the head of the person who killed your loved one, though we're still not admitting it, that kind of thing. After Tywin had died, Qyburn started subtly ingratiating himself with Cersei, admitting that he wanted to experiment on the Mountain's dying body. Given that Qyburn had already proven his worth and discretion, she agreed. "The Mountain is yours," she said. "Do what you will with him, but confine your studies to the Black Cells. When he dies, bring me his head. My father promised it to Dorne." After which follows, well, we aren't shown, but we can assume quite gruesome and disturbing things down in the Black Cells, before Gregor finally apparently dies, and Qyburn sets to preparing it for transportation to Dorne. Cersei asks him about this later. "Have you attended to that little task I set you?" "I have, your grace. I am sorry that it took so long. Such a large head. It took the beetles many hours to clean the flesh. By way of pardon, I have lined a box of ebony and silver with felt to make a fitting presentation for the skull." A cloth sack would serve as well. Prince Doran wants his head. He won't give a fig what sort of box it comes in. The skull is then taken down to Dorne by Sir Balon Swan, and House Martell hold a rather macabre 7-course feast with the skull in place of honour. There are a variety of opinions expressed then by the Martells, but the majority view seems to be grim satisfaction that a small degree of retribution has been achieved. So far, so straightforward, you might think. Where is the mystery here? Well, it starts with suspicions in Dorne. For example, Nymeria Sand, one of the Sand Snakes, says this: "No one saw the Mountain die, and no one saw his head removed. That troubles me, I confess, but what could the bitch queen hope to accomplish by deceiving us?" The suspicion appears to be that the Mountain is still alive somehow, and Cersei somehow sourced a head that was big enough that it looked like it might have been on the Mountain's shoulders and sent that to Dorne instead. We should note that Tyene Sand, the poisons expert, is very clear that her father's blade pierced the Mountain's skin, so it would have been fatal, however long it took, and no one can really work out why Cersei would deceive them, but the suspicion is there. Well, let's start with the obvious issue. Where might she have got such a head from? There aren't many 8-foot-tall giants in the land with heads to match. The thinking among some is perhaps it's actually the head of one of the dwarves sent to Cersei. This is an overlapping plot point to the Mountain's head, to the extent that it's clear that George R.R. Martin definitely wants us to see at least a thematic link. Cersei, obsessed with the Valonqar prophecy, had put out a huge bounty for Tyrion's head, so people kept sending her dwarf heads, hoping to get that bounty. Obviously, none of them actually were Tyrion, but might one of them have been large enough to be mistaken for the Mountains? We're told a few times that dwarf heads are unnaturally large, so it's not beyond the realm of possibility. But I think we need to be clear that there is no reason to doubt Cersei here. She is a duplicitous person, but she instructs Qyburn to send the Mountain's head to Dorne for clear political reasons, and despite several chapters from her POV, there's no hint that she changed her mind on that. So, if that wasn't the Mountain's head that arrived in Dorne, it wasn't, as some of the Martells thought, Cersei playing games and deliberately deceiving them, it was Qyburn. He told Cersei that he had cleaned the head, told her the box he was putting it in, and she told him to send it off. She clearly thought at that point that the Mountain's head was indeed going to Dorne. And there's actually no particular reason to doubt Qyburn either at this point. He is actively trying to win Cersei's trust. She had given him the instruments he had long desired to complete his studies. Betraying her would have been a very high-risk strategy. What could possibly have tempted him to go against that? For some fans, we get an answer with the appearance of Robert Strong, the Zombie Mountain, as we sometimes call him. Personally, I prefer Science White. The others control Ice Whites. George R. R. Martin described Beric Dondarrion as a Fire White, animated by the power of fire, or R'hllor if you prefer, and now Qyburn has managed to create a white of his own using science, so Science White. I did a whole character study on Qyburn if you're interested in that, but basically I think George R. R. Martin is playing on the idea of Victor Frankenstein here, the mad and extremely morally questionable scientist animating a corpse. Because that's what seems to have happened. When Cersei emerges from her walk of shame, who is there to pick her up but a new member of the Kingsguard, Robert Strong? This is the description we get. 8 feet tall, or maybe taller, with legs as thick around as trees. He had a chest worthy of a plough horse, and shoulders that would not disgrace an ox. His armour was plate steel, enamelled white and bright as a maiden's hopes, and worn over gilded mail. A great helm hid his face. We should probably acknowledge at this point that although the TV show confirmed that Robert Strong is the Mountain reanimated, we don't yet have that in the books. It is by far the most likely explanation, but we don't have it 100% yet, so just be aware. But for me, yes, this is the Mountain. Only he was ever mentioned as being 8 feet tall. That's nearly 2.5 meters tall for metric people, and there was apparently not another like his stature in the Seven Kingdoms. And it's not just our suspicions. Cersei quickly understands who he is as well, thinking of him as a dead man. Kevan Lannister, nobody's fool, wonders to himself if this new member of the Kingsguard is even alive. This is the Zombie Mountain, and everyone in the Red Keep either knows or suspects it. So now surely we have an answer. Qyburn did deceive both Dawn and Cersei. He needed the Mountain's head for his experiments, and there is Robert Strong with his head. So mystery solved. Except we don't actually ever see Robert Strong's head. We're told variously that he never eats or drinks, never speaks, and never even takes off his armour, including his helmet. No one has ever seen his face or head. Might, underneath that great helm that never comes off, there be no head? We don't know the logistics of Qyburn's Science White animation. Is a head even needed? We do know that George R. R. Martin loves fantasy horror more than we sometimes give him credit for, and what could be more horror than when the helmet is finally removed we discover nothing, just darkness. And I actually wonder whether this was foreshadowed way back in Book 1. Bran has a dream while in his coma. The three-eyed crow is talking with him, trying to get him to fly, and he gets visions, true visions of his family. For example, of his mother on a boat, staring at the cat's paw dagger while Sir Roderick is suffering from a bout of seasickness. Something we know happened. Poor Sir Roderick even cuts off his famous whiskers because, well, he kept on being sick into them. So it's true visions. And Bran also sees this, the foes his family face. There were shadows all around them. One shadow was dark as ash, with the terrible face of a hound. That's obviously the Hound. Another was armoured like the sun, golden and beautiful. Jaime. Over them both loomed a giant in armour made of stone, but when he opened his visor, there was nothing inside but darkness and thick black blood. That last one is clearly the Mountain, a giant with armour of stone, and when he opened his visor, there was nothing inside it but darkness. If you want foreshadowing of the Mountain not having a head, that's it. When trying to work our way through the various theories about what's going on in A Song of Ice and Fire, I think we often have to look for Occam's razor. The simplest solution is often the right one. For many people, the simplest solution is that Qyburn deceived Cersei and the Dornish and sent a fake head to Dawn so that he could use that head on the Zombie Mountain, Robert Strong. For me, though, I actually think that the simplest solution is that the skull sent to Dawn is real. After all, nobody can figure out how he could fake it. And Robert Strong, the Zombie Mountain, therefore doesn't have a head. He never speaks or eats or drinks or removes his helmet. There's just darkness there. As we saw in Bran's vision all that time ago, when he opened his visor, there was nothing inside but darkness and thick black blood. If you'd like to see more A Song of Ice and Fire videos like this, there's a link to my playlist on the left of your screen now. Or to support this channel, thank you. There's a link to my Patreon page on the right of your screen. Thanks for watching. That's all for this time. I'll see you again soon.